I'm Kiran Jesadasan. I'm the transport strategist at drisk.ai. We're a startup based out of Pasadena, California, and here in London. And our mission is to create truly safe autonomous vehicles that can actually handle the entire scope of what the world can throw at them. Autonomous vehicles are great at doing things that are inherently not too complicated, things that they've been trained on. But unfortunately, the world has a way of throwing a bunch of weird things at them which perhaps they haven't been trained on before. And when faced with situations like that, ultimately they might need human backup drivers, they might need teleassist operations to ultimately get them going and navigate that particular edge case. And the flavors of edge cases could be almost infinite. I mean, it's a hyper-dimensional space when we look at it technically. And what we're trying to do is to capture the truly weird stuff out there, like the really, really, really weird stuff, and in essence, train them on that with the hypothesis that once you train on the truly weird stuff, you get the center cases for free. If you can do the weirdest stuff in the world, you can handle the easy stuff as well. And that's our hypothesis.
Great.
And we've been working with customers to actually prove that. Road traffic deaths in the US account for about 42,000 per year. Where I'm from in India, it's about anywhere between 160 to 180,000 per year. It's the world's largest source of preventable deaths. And when you look at the data, there's a lot of, the assumption is that autonomous vehicles in theory can solve a lot of those because a lot of those accidents happen because of human error. Unfortunately, human beings are amazing at interpreting and understanding situations which they have never faced before. But autonomous vehicles aren't like that. They have to be explicitly trained on these weird things. And if they aren't, they're going to fail at them. And what we do is capture these weird phenomena and ensure that as part of their training regime, they are facing the real world of like chaotic driving conditions, not what a regulator might have made up as part of a test that ultimately is done on sterile test conditions. Bright sunny test tracks, like no curves on the road, perfect lane lines. And ultimately, with how autonomous vehicles have been developed, you see them sort of deployed typically in places which aren't so chaotic. That is changing, of course, with Wave deploying in London, Cruise deploying in San Francisco, places that are inherently complicated. But ultimately, the way the autonomous vehicle industry has progressed, it's very piecemeal. You start deployments in one place and then you train on the weird phenomena that you happen to see over there. By hook or by crook, if you get lucky and you see a weird phenomena, great. Let's use that to retrain a network. It's not, what is the weirdest stuff that happens across the world? Because ultimately, weird things happen everywhere, and whether an autonomous vehicle sees it or not should not be the justification of whether it can handle it or not. And that's what we do. We collect our data from the real world, and the mechanisms in which we collect them are basically, if it exists in a data set, we aggregate it. We aggregate CCTV feeds, we aggregate dashcam feeds, we aggregate free text reports, and we also go to the public and ask them, hey, what is the weirdest thing that you've actually seen on the road? You think an autonomous vehicle can handle it? And some of the things that we've come across are insane. Of course, cyclists interweaving in and out, getting doored. But like, what happens if somebody opens a pothole and crawls out of it? Or if stuff falls off the back of a pickup truck? Or, like power lines downed on the road. And this is a problem that we've seen in San Francisco as well, where a cruise vehicle just did not know how to navigate that. Because again, it had not been, it has never faced that situation before. The more structured approach that we tend to do is we work where we understand the regulatory testing environment, see what regulators are looking to validate their autonomous vehicles against, and ADAS vehicles. And then what we do is a progression of where they are traveling towards, like where regulation is moving. So right now, the regulatory tests tend to be straightforward, not necessarily mimicking the real world in terms of complexity and sophistication. But where they are moving towards is more is to understand situations that happen in cities, getting doored, like traffic jam type stuff, and things that you see every day on our commutes, right? We what we do is we analyze the future trends of where regulation is moving and start building testing data sets today so that customers of ours and like AV or ADAS developers have an idea of what's coming down the pipeline and are capable of training their stacks today as opposed to waiting for a like couple of years whenever they come out, so that they're not just designed to beat what regulation says, but truly are capturing and training against what the world throws at them. So that's how we operate. Well, you'll have autonomous vehicles that can do anything. You can pretty much perform as well as, if not way better than human beings. There would be pretty much no road accidents. I mean, the idea of a road fatality would be a thing of the past. I mean, of course, autonomous vehicles aren't the end-all solution to all mobility, right? Like in the middle of a city, you don't want gridlock of these autonomous vehicles. But for places where they are applicable and like for places where they actually make sense and where, I mean, most of America tends to operate in a very auto-centric manner, right? I mean, like public transport, though it's improving, you could very clearly make the argument that mobility is almost dependent on car culture over there. And weirdly, they have some of the highest fatality rates in the world on roads. Our aim is to completely negate that and ensure that anything that is thrown at a car is completely and elegantly handled.